2 Samuel chapter 15. Absalom's conspiracy. Nathan had told David while announcing David's forgiveness for his disgraceful crime of killing Uriah that God will bring calamity out of his own household. 2 Samuel 12:11. Now David was getting older and his sins diminished his standing. At this time, we see an exciting, skilled and cunning son of David named Absalom who captures the hearts of the people who expected a change. Absalom was an arrogant, ambitious and revengeful prince. He impressed the people and secretly robbed the people's affection and goodwill to his father toward him. Some admired his beauty and gallantry, 2 Samuel 14:25, others his courtesy and civility, and others were taken with his magnificent promises of the noble things he would do if he were their king. Absalom's love for his unfortunate sister Tamar had led Absalom murder his elder brother Amnon. After the death of Amnon and his reconciliation to his father, Absalom saw no hindrance in his way to the throne. He despised Solomon because of the meanness of his birth and his tender years. There was probably now no competitor in his way to the throne. However, Absalom did not want to wait until his father's death in order to succeed him. Being a very ambitious prince, he revolted against David. The revolt of Absalom that we see in this chapter is directly traced to the prophecy of Nathan. Before we go into the chapter, let us see what were the problems that fostered an environment that made Absalom rebellious. 1. The whole basis of David's family life was flawed. Absalom was of a royal blood not only by his father David but also by his mother Maacah, daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. Maacah was the princess of Geshur whom David married as part of a political alliance. David was acting like the kings of the ancient Middle East whose reputation and power could be measured in terms of the number and beauty of their wives as well as the number of their sons. But he was acting against the command of God in Deuteronomy 17:17. A king must not take many wives or his heart will be led astray. 2. Bad example by David. David married Ahinoam, wife of Saul, and her daughter Michal. The Bible forbade sex with woman and her daughter. Leviticus 18:17, Leviticus 20:14. This probably was the reason why Amnon, who was Ahinoam's son, wanted to rape his sister Tamar. 3. Abuse of power. David abused his royal power to take Bathsheba as his wife and kill Uriah. David also lost the respect of his family and his own moral authority. He broke 3 commandments of God by murdering, committing adultery and coveting his neighbor's wife. He brought the judgment of God onto his own family. God told him that sword would never depart from his house. 4. David did not act at the proper time. After Amnon raped Tamar, who was Absalom's sister, Absalom had the right to expect David, both as father and as king, to provide justice for Tamar and due punishment to Amnon. In 2 Samuel 13:21, we read that David was very angry, but he failed to punish Amnon. 5. David failed to share in his son's rejoicing. When Absalom called David to come for the sheep shearing, he refused to go. 2 Samuel 13:24-25. 6. David failed to act when Absalom fled from killing Amnon. Absalom fled to Geshur and stayed there for 3 years. David could have shown love, he could have shown justice, he could have shown both, but he did nothing. 2 Samuel 13:38. 7. Lack of attention. David did not pay attention to what was going on at the city gate where Absalom administered justice. Also, David did not have representatives to hear the claims of the people. 8. Lack of relationship and guidance. Though David loved Absalom, David made no effort to restore his relationship with Absalom until the Tekoa woman enacted the scene. There was also no evidence of an ongoing relationship with Absalom during his 4-year stay in Jerusalem. These were the reasons why the young man Absalom, who needed guidance, grew rebellious. Let's move on to our Bible study. Absalom steals the hearts of the men of Israel, verses 1 to 6. Absalom carefully cultivated an exciting and enticing image. After his reconciliation with David, Absalom tried to make himself look grand and respectable among the people. Absalom provided himself with chariots and horses. Perhaps he got these from his grandfather Talmai at Geshur in Syria. Probably Talmai practiced similar magnificence at Geshur. Chariots and horses were symbols of royalty, but they were a novelty among the Hebrew people. Also, this was the first use in Israel of chariots and horses as part of a regal pomp, as Adonijah afterwards did in 1 Kings 1:5. Contrary to God's law, Absalom acquired horses. Deuteronomy 17:16. The king must not acquire great number of horses for himself. Moreover, 50 men ran ahead of him, giving an impressive procession, thus giving notice of his approach. By this way, he impressed the people and attracted their attention with his wealth and splendor. Absalom worked very hard to do harm and to ply his arts of treachery on the people. Verse 2. Business and judicial proceedings were carried out at the city gate. This verse has 5 tactics that Absalom used to make a show of his self-denial, diligence, and solicitude for the good of the public. He thus used his arts of treachery on the people. 1. Absalom worked hard. He would rise early. 2. Absalom knew where to position himself, that is, by the side of the road leading to the city gate. 3. Absalom looked for trouble people, that is, anyone who came with a complaint. 4. Absalom reached out to the trouble people. He would call out to them. 5. He took a personal interest in the troubled person by asking questions like, "What town are you from?" Absalom sympathized with the person to poison the people's mind toward his own father. Verses 3-4. Then Absalom would say to them, "Look, your claims are valid and proper, but there is no representative of the king to hear you." This was a charge against his father's administration. Instead of taking the matter to his father to tell about the break in the legal system, Absalom steps in to replace his father. Absalom stirred up dissatisfaction with David's government and campaigned against David by promising to provide justice that David denied the people. Thus, by slander, flattery, and fair promises, Absalom sought the preference of people and won their loyalty to him. Absalom gained the goodwill of all men. Verse 5. He behaved like a king. People gave honor to Absalom. Then he kissed them. This showed that he accepted them and was available for everyone. By this free, familiar, affable, and courteous manner, Absalom gained the affections and goodwill of all men. Absalom stole the affections of the people in a private and clandestine manner and brought them over to his side secretly and by stratagem without them knowing his wicked ambition. Absalom's cunning campaign worked. He became more popular and more trusted than David. Absalom's show of hypocrisy to fulfill his vow at Hebron, verses 7-8. It took Absalom only 4 years to make the people loyal to him. Hebron, the hometown of Absalom, was about 20 miles south of Jerusalem. It was here that Absalom executed his revolt against David. A son rebelling against his father is an ugly sight, but rebellion disguised as religion adds to the ugliness. Absalom committed treason under the guise of worship. David's last words to Absalom, verse 9. The king said to him, "Go in peace." So he went to Hebron. David, who always encouraged religious devotion, gave his consent. David had no idea what Absalom was doing, so he sent him away in peace. Ironically, these were David's last words to Absalom. Upon hearing these, Absalom went to carry out his plot to overthrow David's kingdom. What a parting, the last, though neither of them knew it. Absalom's conspiracy, verse 10. As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpets, then say, Absalom is king in Hebron. Absalom counted on the hope that most of Israel would see this as succession and not treason. Legitimacy for Absalom's government, verses 11-12. 200 men from Jerusalem had accompanied Absalom, not knowing the purpose of this trip. This shows the extreme secrecy by which the affair had been managed. Absalom's government gained more prestige when one of David's top aides, Ahithophel, Bathsheba's grandfather, joined Absalom. 2 Samuel 23 verses 24-39. Ahithophel was renowned for his wisdom and wise counsel. 2 Samuel 16:23. Ahithophel may have been looking for revenge on David for what he had done to Bathsheba, so he sided Absalom. This genuinely hurt David. He described his feeling in Psalm 41. Gilo is a town in the hill country of Judah, Joshua 15:48-51, located a few miles north of Hebron. David flees from Jerusalem, verses 13-18. Verse 13, a messenger came and told David, the hearts of the people of Israel are with Absalom. David knew well that Absalom was a ruthless man who valued power over principle. David didn't want the city of Jerusalem to become a battleground. So, as soon as he heard the conspiracy formed against him, he fled since he wanted to preserve the city he had beautified and not have a war there. Psalm 3 and Psalm 4 were David's morning and evening songs when he fled from Absalom his son. Verse 16, the king set out with his entire household following him, but he left 10 concubines to take care of the palace. This seems to be ordered by the overruling providence of God to bring about what was threatened to David. 2 Samuel 12:11. Before unrighteous Absalom, David could justify himself and stand out. But before the righteous God, he must condemn himself and yield to his judgments. So the king chose to set out that he might humble himself under the hand of God. In verse 18, the Kerethites and Pelethites, who were the foreign soldiers from Gath in Philistine, showed their fidelity to the king. Also, the 600 Gittites clung to David even when his success seemed to fade away. It's more remarkable and tragic that David's own countrymen and his own family were nowhere to be found. As David watched this procession leave Jerusalem and head for safety, he was greatly pained. This was reflected in Psalms 41, 55, 61, 62 and 63 that David wrote during this time. David's faithful friends, verses 19-23. As David watched the procession of his faithful supporters, Ittai the Gittite caught his eye. David couldn't understand why this newly arrived foreigner took the risk of such open loyalty to David. David also speaks a blessing on Ittai for offering to help. David gave him permission to go to Jerusalem if he wanted to and not risk the lives of his people in an Israelite affair. To put an end to the debate between them, in verse 21, Ittai replied to the king, "As surely as the Lord lives and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether it means life or death, there will your servant be." It being Ittai's resolution to abide with David, David urged brave Ittai to march on first to make sure there was no danger in crossing the Kidron. Kidron Valley ran north-south along the eastern side of Jerusalem and separated the city from the Mount of Olives. The wilderness was just beyond the valley. David's submission to God's chastening, verses 24-26. Zadok and the Levites brought the ark out of the city and set it down while the multitude were assembling. Meanwhile, Abiathar led the multitude forward up the Mount of Olives, offered sacrifices until they had all come out of the city. David knew the possession of the ark did not guarantee God's blessing. David trusted in God, not in the Ark of the Covenant. He was willing to let the ark go back to Jerusalem and to put his fate in God's hands. David sends the priest back to gather information, verses 27-29. David sent Zadok, Abiathar and his sons back to Jerusalem. David waited in the wilderness until he received word to come back to Jerusalem. David on the Mount of Olives, verse 30. The Mount of Olives is a hill to the east of the city of Jerusalem. It was the location of David's remorse over his sins. Both David and Jesus suffered for sin. But Jesus suffered for our sins and David suffered for his own sin. David hears of Ahithophel's deflection to Absalom, verses 31 to 37. Ahithophel and Hushai had both been David's officers who gave him wise advice. Now, Ahithophel was not loyal to David. So, David prayed, Lord, turn Ahithophel's counsel into foolishness. Great is the power of faithful prayer. In verse 32, David took time to stop at the top of the Mount of Olives to look back upon Jerusalem and the tabernacle, and he worshipped God. David knew that only God could help him. But Hushai was still loyal to David. David sent Hushai back to Jerusalem so he would be able to help David secretly and ruin Ahithophel's advice. The plan was that Hushai would listen to the moves of Absalom and the priests Ahimaaz and Jonathan could bring the information to David. So Hushai was in the palace with Absalom in Jerusalem. 2 Samuel chapter 15 Questions and Answers.